Welcome to Frank and Upfront, live and audio file for audio files. Today's date is Monday, February 27th, 2023. Welcome to my live. Welcome all of you. Welcome. Today's going to be a very great and informative show, and I hope that you'll be thoroughly entertained and that the message, above all else, will edify the heart and ears of the listener. I do apologize for the late start, but we're having some technical issues getting set up, and we're still waiting for Pod Bean to join the show at 2:15. In the meantime, we'll start without them, and when they join, they will join. This week's topic: do you wish to possess the power of immortality? Now, as I'm sure you now know, we all know by now, no one lives forever. We all have an expiration date. The average life expectancy that they tell us is 71. They tell us that. 71. It's even lower for African American men. It's 68 or 65 in some cases. But their statistics doesn't only include dying from old age. Their statistics include people who are shot, stabbed, and run over by a bus. People who, and even with all those factors combined, if the people in our community don't practice the proper lifestyle choice of diet and exercise, then our life expectancy would be lower than that of other races. But those are their statistics, because my memory serves me right. People living in rural Jamaica who eat yam and banana and breadfruit and ackee and saltfish and all those things, like my uncles and my great grand and all them, they live to up into their 80s and their high 90s even. So then, it seems that their statistics does not include people, or maybe it does, but those people are in the minority. People living in the rural parts of East Country is in the minority. The people living in cities who practice dangerous lifestyle choice, living on the edge, they seem to be the majority. But whatever it is, average life expectancy 71. But that's just an average number. They have to tally up the numbers and give you a mean average. When there are people on the individual level who belong to all races who live past 75, past 80, 85, 90 even. We all know them. Many of them will joke that they key to longevity is to not get married and have kids. But as long as you live, you will die someday, regardless. Okay, there goes Part B now. Welcome, Part B, and welcome. It seems that the app is giving trouble, so I have to go on the web browser. I have to close the app and go on the web browser. So I'm on the web browser now, on Part B Live, and I want to welcome Part B to the live calling show. And YouTube has been here 10 minutes before you. Sorry. Next time I go on the web browser, the app is only meant for scheduling in advance and changing the thumbnail for each show. But to actually go live, you gotta go on the web browser, on the website. So back to what I was saying. If you live past 100, you will die someday. If you're a human being. Not shellfish, only jellyfish live forever. They say that jellyfish that the jellyfish are immortal, which is, I don't know, makes you feel kind of bad. Because there are people who, maybe have lived all their whole lives. And then they're mad that they can't get any more years. So it's kind of, for them, it made them kind of sad that they gotta go. Even if they live long, but then my solution is to thank the creator, because the people of members of your contemporaries who were not so fortunate and they didn't live as long as you did and they died young. And they wish they could be around as long as you have been. So if you get to live to life whole days, be grateful. Be thankful to Jah, to the universe. Okay, probably you didn't miss anything much. We're just getting warmed up here and basically um context building. And if you miss anything, if you want to start from scratch, the replay will be available on Sunday. Alright, so or you could listen on YouTube Live, but you're gonna have to bear through the long pauses and the imperfections. I'm sorry. The finished product, when I cleaned up, the finished product will be available in a podcast episode on Sundays. So now, if you're human, you will die someday. If you live past 85, 90, 95, if you live to be 105, if you live to be 110, you will die someday. And as I was saying before, many people feel bad. They feel bad that it's over already. That's all they got is a few measly decades. They don't want to die. But we get back to that later. And then there's some who, and in fact, everybody, I would say, Everybody at some point or other dreamed about immortality. Immortality is living forever, literally forever, without dying. Not by old age, at least. If you get shot or get run over by a bus, you'll die. But if you stay out of harm's way, you live forever. But be careful what you wish for, because some people get eternal life without eternal youth. Imagine being stuck forever as an ailing, frail, elderly man. Well, not even that elderly. Imagine being stuck forever at around 70. 70 is not old. At around 70, you're still an old man. Still have a few aches and pains, but it's not elderly like in your 90s. You still wouldn't want that, right? But it would be nice to stay stuck forever at 25 with really big hair and really big beard and all of um, your health intact and all of your teeth and muscles and being at the peak of your physical prowess, being athletic, being able to do gymnastics, all those things. That's where you probably want to start. 25, ideally 25, but between 25 and 35 or even 40. 40 is not bad either. 40 is still very young, but some people choose to be old at 40. That's their choice. And then they get mad when they are old. That don't make no sense to me. It's stupid. So then, so anyway, the question of today, the topic for today's show: do you wish to possess the power of immortality? And that's my question for you. Think about all the pros and cons that would come with having eternal life. What would you do with the rest of your life if you knew that the rest of your life was the rest of eternity and you knew you would never die? We take a break right here, and when we come back, I'll be taking your calls here on this program, and I hope you join me then. Keep it locked and frank and upfront. Welcome back to Frank and the Front Life, an audio file for audiophiles. This week's topic: do you wish to possess the power of immortality? Um, in this segment, we'll be taking your calls, and we'll be talking about the pros and cons of being immortal. Do we want to be immortal? Hmm? Now, the rules for calling the show: try to stick to the topic. There are others who are waiting to call the show. Um, I'm going to say 10 minutes for each caller. No discriminatory comments. No racist or sexist or ageist, ageist comments, especially in this show. And given the topic, of course. And no disparaging comments. Any such comments, I will cut you off the show. And while we wait for callers to call the show, what would you do with the rest of your life if you knew the rest of your life would last for eternity? By the way, at the beginning of the show, the audio quality was poor and I fixed it during the break, so we're fine now. So, but I tell you something very interesting. Before I give you my final thoughts as to what I would do, there are some who would get jaded and get bored of life, while there are others who will be sad that they're missing out on the future. There are those who would like to see the future and would like to see their future generations, their great grandkids and so forth, and on the macro level how technology would evolve and how advanced it would be in that year. So in the they would want to see not only the future lineage of their own family tree, but also how technology would advance and how research would evolve and advance, medical research, and how political systems would evolve, how economic systems would evolve, how labor markets would evolve. Now, we maybe can't see all that, but we can dream, we can try and predict in our imagination. And perhaps sometimes the universe will allow us to take a slight glimpse of that as we sleep and as we dream. We might dream about a slight glimpse of the future. We may not see flying cars and tall skyscrapers, but so we may not know what year it is, but it's the future. We might see the near future or the distant future. So sometimes we are allowed to see a little sneak peek that wouldn't spoil the plot too much, or wouldn't cause a logical paradox. Too much of a logical paradox that would change history too much. But we see a little bit of sneak peek, just a little bit. We might get those dreams at different times of our lives or at the very end, if in fact we care about those things. If in fact one were to care about such things. And even if one doesn't care, there might be a greater purpose for allowing oneself to catch a glimpse of those things. Now, are they working on, is someone somewhere working on an immortality serum? A drink that will make us live forever? Hmm? Because when you look at old time TV, some of those actors were the same age as we were, or even younger than we were, but they looked older. So did people used to look older back in the way back in the day, decades ago, did people look older than we do now? Because the Kardashians are in their 40s and they look young, and some think they look weird. And J Lo and them is past 50 and she doesn't show any signs of aging. Meanwhile, back on TV in the 80s, you had like the Golden Girls who were in their 50s too, like J Lo, and they were old, middle aged. And they had like the first lady Nancy Reagan who looked like the Golden Girls herself in the 80s, right? But now you have women who are close to the same age as they were, or maybe young, a little bit younger, or a little bit, even a little bit older, and they look younger. So, um, people's health, even though at the same time with those celebrities, is makeup. Strip away all the makeup and they probably show signs of aging. But it's very telling. Even with the makeup, it is still, you can still see that it's not just the makeup. They actually are a bit younger. And then there are people out in the real world who don't wear makeup as they do, who you wouldn't believe their age and they look younger. Sometimes it's just good genes. One is blessed to have good genes, but sometimes as well, it's a lifestyle choice, or it's both. It's the good genes and the lifestyle choice that causes one to not age. Or to not age as rapidly. And so, with an improvement in lifestyle, an improvement in um, life experience, with the availability of more creature comforts, and with the improvement in modern medicine, you find that people can live better quality of life, and therefore they're healthier, they feel better on the inside, and it shows on the outside. Say, for example, can you believe that Beyonce will be turning 42 this year in September? She was born 1981. Can you believe that? She doesn't look like 42. But a 42-year-old in 1981 when she was born looked older. Maybe they were still strong for their age, but they were old in their looks on the surface. So things are different. And several contributing factors. People are having fewer kids at an earlier age than people of that time were having. So they were more stressed earlier. Back in those days, it was such that one would graduate from high school, date the prom queen if they're lucky, or something, something. One of the other girls at the prom, date her. Next thing you know, she's pregnant. Next thing you know, she comes from a strictly religious background. And so she had to marry her. So he's forced to marry her. They probably didn't even like each other very much, but they had sex and she's pregnant. So, you know, to keep up with the appearances and impress the neighbors, they had to get married so the kids could have a stable family background. But because they don't really love each other, they start fighting. in front of the kids sometimes. They don't even care. Because if you're going to fight, they have to fight in the car or send the kid to their room and then you fight. But then don't fight in front of the kids. Sometimes they don't even care. So anyway, he has to get a job as soon as he graduates. He gave up on his dreams to get a job to look after his kids. Next thing you know, two more kids are there, so now there's three. And he's not even 25 yet. He's working several jobs to hold it down, to look after the kids. And the kids are fully grown, and by the time they're fully grown, the parents are old and bitter and resentful. And they feel like life passed them by. They're not even that old. They're only old in their mindset. They're probably not even 50 yet, but they're old in their mindset though. And life was harder. They had fewer conveniences, fewer creature comforts, no cell phone, no internet. So they had to join long lines at the grocery store to pay their bills. Can you believe that there was once a time where people used to pay their bills at the grocery store? And I remember growing up in Jamaica where you could pay all your bills at the paymaster at the high low or the mega mart or whatever it is. I remember that. And I don't know if it still goes on down there with all the technology and the internet and all that, but at least it was easier to pay all your bills at the paymaster at the grocery store than to go to each individual ministry, the Ministry of Water, and then they go over to the Ministry of Energy to pay the different bills, or the JPS to pay different bills at JPS, and then pay the other bill at the Water Commission. That's more accurate, right? It's easier to just pay at Paymaster. So there were conveniences, but now you can just pay everything online, even though we have new problems now because all our businesses out there and there's no privacy. The internet have cut down our privacy. But you still have to be careful, very careful. Now you can order things online, you don't gotta go to the store no more. They never had that. And they have three kids. People have more conveniences with fewer to no kids. So they have fewer mouths to feed. Only one mouth to feed, and that's themselves quite oftentimes. Back in those days, the wife would be a stay-at-home mom and the father would have to earn, there's only one income in the household and it had to cover five people or six people. Now, there are fewer stay-at-home moms, so there's two incomes in the household. And there's probably only one child to no child, and that income would only cover either one to two humans or no more than three humans. And I say humans because they probably have cats or dogs, which they need to feed them, but they don't got to go to school, so they don't got to worry about tuition when they have pets. You see what I mean? And they have the TikTok and these things they can make money online, so they probably don't got to go to work either. So they don't have nowhere near as much stress. Therefore, and they have more. There's more medical research, more journals written about the findings from such research. In which and then the journals are posted on certain websites or apps on the internet and or sometimes deliver right to their email. And they read it, they research it, and they know what to do. They adjust their grocery list, they learn how to cook. If no one ever taught them how to cook, they learn on YouTube like I did, even though I could already cook. But I'm better at it now because of YouTube. And they don't even have to, when they're done writing their grocery list, they don't even got to go to the store. They just simply order online and have half that shit delivered. And all they do is drop it off and at the doorstep or whatever it is, and they don't gotta go nowhere. And then the bills are taken care of. The groceries are taken care of. There's more income, therefore more creature comforts, therefore people can eat out more often than they once did. And they know where to eat out at to safeguard themselves. So all of those are contributing factors. And then even some I haven't mentioned yet are contributing factors as to why people are younger now at the same age or even older than their predecessors were 30 years ago. And the Golden Girls you see on TV in the 80s were a reflection of reality, of how people were in real life, depending on the target audience of that show. And technology and research and life experiences are so much more advanced that regular people in the labor force probably are living a better quality of life than medieval kings did. Maybe even Renaissance monarchs did. Maybe even early 20th century now. No, no, no. Maybe even 19th century monarchs did. For which I think there was only one. No, no, there wasn't only one. There probably. I mean, Queen Victoria reigned throughout most of the 19th century. But there were others before her. At least two others before her. This person says, Hail Satan. This person named Irad Shams. No, we don't deal with those things here on this program. Take that off. I will not entertain that. Is this person being a troll? We don't hail any of those things. I will block you. I'm warning you one last time. Anyhow, I'm sorry, one moment, please. Okay, I had to block him just now. Get him out of here. I think I need moderators because we got to keep these shows out of here so we could focus on the topic at hand. I don't care if I don't have any subscribers or even only one. This will not be tolerated. But back to what I was saying. All they wanted attention, anyways, right? As I was saying, The, many of our lifestyle choices or habits are contributing factors to how well preserved we are, or how well we age, or how badly we age. And those are only minor contributing factors. So then, but they are very telling, however, and they hint towards the possibility that someone could be developing an immortality drug. Because while people have done research to improve their social conditions, their economic conditions, and their and so on and so forth, even their political conditions, um, they're nonetheless still steps to take to improve their overall life conditions, mind, body, and soul. And physically, those steps will include diet and exercise. So people are learning what to eat, they're eating better. They don't have to be vegans, as I've said before on previous programs. You can still eat meat, but you have to learn how to eat meat properly, how to balance. You have to find balance. And as far as the food and drug and exercise are concerned, people are not only looking better at a younger age, or at an older age rather, they're also living longer. And that's just food and that's just diet and exercise alone by itself without considering the actual immortality drug that one might be working on. And that drug is only a theory because they might not actually develop it. But when I research gerontology online, there are certain cells, it's like a candlestick. The cells get smaller and smaller and smaller until they burn out. And you can't live past the point of burnout. That's how aging works. They start out tall and then they burn down like a candle, almost next to nothingness. That drug would actually make those cells taller or longer rather. So to give you additional years so you don't age very quickly or burn out. The cells don't burn out very quickly, causing you to age quickly. And there's already some steps that were taken because we see now that people are living longer and happier and healthier. And people are now living up into their 90s and so forth, into their before long, more and more people will pass 100. And really and truly, we're supposed to live to 120. But in the Middle Ages, 25 was old, and 40 was old, and by 40 you're dead, or I guess 30. No, no, no. I'm sorry. 30 was old, and by 45, 50 you're dead. But conditions were so poor and so harsh and so unbearable, and there were so many illnesses like the bubonic plague and smallpox and syphilis and all those Middle Age illnesses of the Middle Ages that life was cut short. You're supposed to live to be 120, but they cut life short because of the brutal conditions to facilitate the greed of the kings and the monarchs of that time period and the church. Meanwhile, people outside of Europe and the Middle East and India, in Africa, and all over were living longer, being healthier because they were not subjected to the same conditions as the Europeans. Same is true with the Native Americans, different tribes of them, and even people in Far East Asia and in Hawaii and so forth. These harsh, brutal conditions were only as they were in Europe, in medieval Europe. So once again, with the commonality of plagues like the bubonic plague and syphilis and so forth, the smallpox, people were old around 30 and dead by 40, 50-ish, for the most part. Few would live to be like 70. And that's where that three scores and 10 myth come from. If you live to be, where in the Bible did it ever say that three scores and 10 is the completion of life? Where did it say that? It's not. It's not even. It's beyond that. It's 120. You got 50 more years past that. But because of the mystical properties of the number seven, people thought any man who lived to be three scores and tens is a blessed man, and it come from medieval because health conditions and life were so hard, and people were so poor that if you live to be 70, you're a blessed man, because many people didn't. Most people you know died at 25, 30, 35, 40, 50. Very few live past 50. But with the improvement of social and economic conditions and political conditions, and with improvements in diet and exercise and a change in mindset and so forth, people are living longer. At the beginning of the 20th century, people are living up into their 70s. More and more people. Now, regardless of their data, you find that the average life expectancy now, I'm not going to say average, I'm going to say common, because average is a number based on statistics that they tallied up when they did surveys. I'm going to say common because I'm not going by the statistics, because, like I said before, they already include within their statistics people who, not only people who live to a ripe old age and died of natural causes, but also people as well who were gunned down or who suffered an accident. And it's not fair to those who died of natural causes to include the people who lived, who died from accidents, you know, or from murder. It's not fair to those who live long to include those as well. So they're not even being very accurate in their research. They're just doing their research to prove a point and push propaganda and whatever it is. And once again, African Americans are on the bottom, which is indicative that there's elements of white supremacy and white supremacist intent in them doing their statistics the way they do and kind of bunch everybody up into the life expectancy. That's why it's so low. But what you should be focused on is not their average based on their research, but the common, what you find common in your environment. Because there's things that's not within your environment that is also included in their statistics. That ain't got nothing to do with you. So what do you find commonly available around you? People living to a ripe old age and being healthy and happy, right? Or people who are just sick prematurely, die prematurely, and so forth. Or people who suffer accidents and die prematurely, who were healthy but they suffer accidents. Do you find that that's very common around you? Check your environment. What's going on around you? That's what matters. But by and large, you find that there were people living into their 90s in the modern world. Now in the 20s, there are people living in their 90s. living up into the high 90s. And in decades to come, by 2050, I can predict that there are people who will be living closer and closer to 120. And it won't be just a few people, it will be more commonplace than it is now. I think it's possible. So there are 4 quarters of 30. 4 quarters of 30 years. 30, 60, 90, 120. The first 30, developmental, learning. The second 30, between 30 and 60, um, is going to be purpose-driven building. The third 30, between 60 and 90, that's going to be your legacy edition. No, that's going to be where you teach. I'm sorry. That's going to be where you teach. And then finally, between 90 and 120 is where you retire. And then that's your legacy edition. So once again, your first 30 are your spring years. You're green rather. You're green on learning. Spring. Second 30, summer. You're on fire for success. You're purpose driven. You're inspired from what you learned in the spring season of your life. Your third 30, between 60 and 90, are your autumn years. Literally your autumn years. Literally. That's why they call it that. Funny how it's not very common for them to call your first 30 year spring or your second 30 year summer, but they call your third 30 year autumn years. And then they expect that your winter years are supposed to be just a few years, like 2 years before death is your winter years, and that's not even true. Your winter years start at 90. It starts at 90 and it goes forth up into 120, or at least it's supposed to, but people don't make it that far. That's why it's not very commonplace, and that's why people often refer to your winter years as the last 2, 3 years before death. And death probably takes place in the 80s or early 90s. That's why. But if we live life like we're supposed to, then we'll be able to enjoy all 4 seasons of our lives, 30 years each. The 30 years of spring from birth till 30, the 30 years of summer from 30 till 60, the 30 years of autumn from 60 till 90, and the 30 years of winter from 90 till 120. And just because you're in the winter years doesn't mean that you're sick and ailing and near death. No, re- change your mindset. You're still young, not young, you're still you're still strong and up and about, but you're not sick, you're not dying, but you're retired. You have worked for the last 90 years, and now you are retired, and you are able to take in life. We didn't come here to retire, work and die. We didn't come here to work, retire, and die. We came here to work. We didn't come here to work for other people, retire, neglect our own purpose, and then die. We came here to work for ourselves and never quite retire. But between 90 and 120, you retire, but not fully. You're still active. As long as you're alive, you still have purpose and you're still active. So you're not retired. Fully, but you slow down a little bit. You cut your work in half, and you're done teaching. During your autumn years, you're teaching. In your winter years, you're not really done teaching, but you've taught as much as you could, and you're just really taking it easy now, and your burden is way lighter now as you wind down. And that's why they call the winter years your legacy edition, and that's the way it's supposed to work. And I find that since the Renaissance, for the past 500 years, we have been coming closer and closer to achieving that formula. And as such, once we achieve that formula, we think that we're getting closer towards discovering the key to immortality, when in fact, that formula was already there, but the brutal hardship of medieval life and living under the system robbed us of our extra years. Punishments were more swift and more draconian back in those days. And those forms of punishment and ways of life robbed us of those extra years. And the people who were born in it, born in medievalism, and died in medievalism, they never knew anything else. How sad is that? For their entire lives, there was more out there and they never knew. So when Europe went through a menopause, Renaissance, Renaissance phase, and they started the Spanish Inquisition and sent Columbus to explore the world and all that. I can understand why they would do that. The problem I have with that is that the Europeans came over here with evil intent. They didn't send us their best. They sent us their pigs and their rapists and their pieces of shit. And some I assume are good people. But mostly they sent us the criminals, the ex-convicts that they released from jail. Those were the ones they sent. And they came over here with evil intentions. Now it is very customary that when sailors are about to sail ships, they write to the king or the queen asking for their blessings. And when the king wrote back with sending his blessings, he probably did so with the best intentions until they realized they could profit off pillaging the natives of these lands. Then they had a change of heart. But the first one who sent his blessings probably did so with the best of intentions. But the criminals and rapists and ex convicts on those ships didn't have the best intentions. They had murder on their mind. And so this is the birth. The Spanish Inquisition is the birth of white supremacy. Because from there, from simply sending a bunch of criminals and rapists on a ship to explore the so called New World, they decide, well, these natives are half dressed and dancing around and worshipping all kind of pagan gods. That's not our God. They're a lesser being than us. They deserve slaughter. Bam, 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 bam. Kill them, rape them, and give them all kind of smallpox that they're not immune to, and cause a genocide. And so from there, they start importing slaves from all over the world. They say Africa, but really from all over the world. The slave trade was global. And when they felt bad about their actions, they used pseudoscience from Charles Darwin to justify their ill treatment of anybody who's not a white Christian from Europe. And so their white supremacy based racism raged on. And that was how it started. So I can understand why they would want to explore outside of their shores because those who are born in it, born in feudalism, died in feudalism, that's all they knew. They knew nothing else. I can understand why they would want to explore. I would want to explore, but I wouldn't have evil intentions. That's my problem. They had evil intentions. You see what I mean? So those who were born in it and lived their entire lives through feudalism in the Middle Ages, they never fulfilled the blueprint of life, the four seasons of 30 years each. And so we think we're getting closer to the pinnacle of discovering the key to immortality. We're just getting closer to living out that blueprint. That's all it is. We're getting closer to living out the blueprint that was set for us in the story of creation, the 120 years, the four seasons, 30 years each, 30, 60, 90, 120. That's it. But then what do you do when somebody decides 120 isn't enough? If we could do 120, we could do 150. The molecules in our bodies that burn out close to death throughout our lives, it burns out throughout most of our lives like a candle and then burns down to the very tip of it at in old age, close to death. We could make that molecule even longer. I forgot what they call it. I have to do research. I should have been more prepared. I do apologize. If we can fulfill the blueprint of our life, of the lives that we were meant to live, we could go even further beyond that. That's where it gets a little bit trickier because I don't know if we can go beyond that. But they'll try, and they have certainly my blessings, and I hope they write a letter to the king asking for his blessings, and I hope he gives them his blessings. because I want to see if we can work on that. So I spent the last hour giving you the history as to what may cause longevity and improve the quality of life, and how one might consider or ponder going beyond the blueprint of the four seasons of life. And we'll take a break right here. When we come back, we'll be going into the final segment of the show and our final thoughts. And I hope you join me then. Keep it locked and frank on up front. Welcome back to Frank on the Front Live, an audio file for audiophiles. This week's topic: do you wish to possess the power of immortality? Now, in this segment, we talk about whether it is realistic to develop an immortality serum, a drug to make you live forever and ever. And other ways in which one can live into the future if one is curious, and also in the event that developing a serum to make you live forever is not feasible. So let me ask you, what would you do with the rest of your life if you knew that the rest of your life would last forever? So then, remember I told you that there are two different kind of people. Those who wouldn't want immortality because they'd be jaded with life, jaded with living life in this body here on Earth, and feel that they'd be better able to explore the universe, having an outer body experience, therefore in spirit and not in flesh. They can fly. They could fly light years in minutes. They could probably teleport. They could do all these cool things in spirit that we can't do in body. And in spirit, they're still immortal regardless, right? They still get to live forever regardless. So then that should even clarify for those who are saying we're immortal in the flesh, in the spirit regardless. That should clarify what I'm talking about here is immortality in the flesh. Is it feasible? Do you want it or not? There are two kind of people: those who are jaded, who want to explore their immortality in spirit, so they could see more places and travel faster, and they could also study at their leisure without going through the hardship of being here on this earth, and they still learn regardless. They can learn at their leisure without going through these hardships just to learn, gain experiences as a soul. And there are those who want to see the future timelines of this earth. They want to see their future lineage in their own family, and they also want to see, or in their own bloodline rather, and they also want to see how technology evolves, how infrastructure evolves, how economic systems evolve, and how political systems evolve. and how social systems evolve. They want to see all those things. That's a part of their experience too. And like I said before, it might not be feasible to build or to develop an immortality drug. So then, in the event that that drug never exists, or they're not able to figure out how to make your micromolecules live longer than 150 or 200 years, or 120 even, what do you do? Because the only feasible alternative is to preserve your body in a cryogenic capsule to be awakened in the year 3023. But before you decide to do that, please decide whether you're prepared to give to kiss your loved ones goodbye, your wife, your kids, your parents, and other loved ones, and so forth, your friends. They probably wouldn't want to go with you. Respect their will. Kiss them goodbye and prepare for the possibility that when you wake up in the future, the people that will be there will be different. Your loved ones will be long dead. The people there in that timeline will be different. You won't know them. Their ways might be different. Their thoughts might be different. All that might be different. You're gonna have to readjust, and it's gonna hurt at first. You might regret doing so at first. You might just climb out the capsule, take one walk around town, and blow your brains out with a laser gun, not a ammunition gun, laser gun, right? That cool stuff. But how do you get that? Though? It's probably very expensive. You probably don't have money. They probably don't even use the kind of money that we use anymore. Everything is probably transactional on plastic. So, are you even going to have the means by which to survive in that world? Let me give you a little bit of prediction for the future, because they abandoned the gold standard when they outlawed gold. There was a time where people weren't allowed to have gold legally. They could get arrested for it. And then they switched to this current system of fiat money and being in debt and all that. Well, this too shall pass. And the next system, it might not be fiat money or cash. It might be purely electronic. They might outlaw cash too, and people might only be using plastic. And they might outlaw plastic too and have the real mark of the beast, which is a microchip that you scan. It's under your wrist and under your skin, and you scan it, and you gain access. You might not be in agreement with that, and even if you were, you might not know how to do that yet because you were frozen. Where will you? How will you be implanted? You might not be able to afford anything at first. They got to get you up to speed. They might abandon the whole social security system and have a new system. After all, the social security system was brought in by FDR less than 100 years ago. Don't you think that that too will pass? And they might have a new system and you might have to get re registered. And where were you born? More appropriately, when were you born? And where have you been this whole time? Will they even believe your story? In order for them to know where you have been this whole time, they would have to be aware of your cryogenic preservation. And we don't even know if that's legal yet or if it's ethical yet. We haven't had that debate yet, so we don't know any of that. So if you consent to being cryogenically preserved off the record, then they would know they wouldn't be expecting you. You'd be a stranger. Where were you born? When were you born? Where'd you come from? You would have to make up some stuff, and where would you get money from to grease some palms to get the fake ID, fake social, fake whatever it is that they have in that timeline, in that future? It's going to be really hard. Think about all those things before you do that. But above all else, most importantly, and then you're going to miss your loved ones. Oh, yes, you hug them goodbye. You went to sleep in the capsule. They live out the rest of their lives and died without you. They live out the rest of their lives without you and then died and left you behind. When you wake up, your first thought would be the last memory you have from your past life. And you're going to miss them like crazy. And then you're going to be in this harsh, new, wicked world. And oh my gosh, poor you. It's going to hurt. Think about all those things. You're going to miss your family, man. Think about all those things before you decide to take a time trip to the future without them. It's almost like the astronaut who volunteers to go to Pluto, knowing fully well it would take 10,000 light years, and by the time they get back to Earth, it would be a new year, and all these things would have happened, and by the time they get back to Earth, all your loved ones wouldn't be there no more. Or they'd be very elderly or something. You'd have missed out on a lot of your kids growing up and getting married and getting jobs and all that. You'll miss out on all of their lives. So once again, ask yourself before you volunteer for the lone man mission to the Pluto or the other galaxy outside of this one, or before you fall asleep in a cryogenic capsule for the rest of eternity. Ask yourself if you're willing to pay the price. And if you are willing to pay the price, ask yourself if your kids are willing to pay the price, if your wife is willing to pay the price. You are going to have to walk that journey alone. And if that's true as it relates to simply falling asleep in a cryo capsule for 1,000 years, like Fry from Futurama, then ask yourself, oh yes, Fry from Futurama, and he left his dog behind, and the dog waited outside the pizza shop for him for 12 years and died in 2012. Poor dog. Poor, poor dog. So think about that. That story with Fry and his dog from Futurama should be very telling as to the losses you will incur. Because Fry probably didn't have a girlfriend in the past, but he had someone who loved him. He had his dog, right? So think about that. You're leaving your dog behind. You're leaving your cats behind, your wife, your kids behind, your friends behind, your parents and siblings behind. There's a reason why you were born in this timeline, and that's to live in this timeline. You weren't born to live in any other timeline but this one. If the Creator wanted you to live in the future, He would have had you been born in 2995 versus 1995. You see what I mean? So we were meant to live in this timeline, and we only get so long. But if you have to kiss your kids and family goodbye to be frozen in a state of suspended animation for 1,000 years, then you will also have to do the same if you were immortal without missing out on, without being frozen and without missing out on the rest of their lives. The only difference is that because you didn't miss out on their lives, you get to spend more time with them, you get to become more attached than ever before. You get to watch them grow old while you remain young and strong. You even get to watch your kids grow old while you're still 25. You get to watch your grandkids grow old while you're still 25. You get to watch your great grandkids grow old, live out their lives, and die, and you're still 25. You get, and because you're more attached, you suffer more heartbreak because you have to painfully kiss them goodbye as you watch them die in old age, and you're still 25. And with each passing generation that you watch die, your great grands, your great great grands, and so forth, with each generation that you watch die. And of course, after your wife dies and you're still 25, you're still horny, right? You still want sex, so you're going to get a new girlfriend. So your new girlfriend will grow old and die. Then your third girlfriend, your third wife will grow old and die. And you get to watch them all grow old and die. At some point, after you suffer enough losses, you don't bother becoming attached. You become more withdrawn, and that's not even good because the point of life is to cherish life. And how will you cherish life if you live forever? If you take it for granted that you live forever, you cherish life because you know it will end someday. And so time has meaning and time becomes precious. We may hate time. We may hate time when we're rushing in traffic and we're late and we're barely punching our time in the time clock with one leg in, one leg out, and we're rushing to our jobs and we're rushing to this and rushing to that. We may hate time under those circumstances, but it's because we don't have too much time that time now has value and meaning. And because we know our loved ones will die, and we know that we too shall someday die, that we cherish our loved ones and we don't take them for granted because we don't know when next we'll see them. If next we'll see them. We don't know any of that. So we cherish them and we love them and we hold them dear to us without being too clingy. Don't be a creep, don't be clingy. But we cherish them in a good way, you know. And we do become attached and we do fear losing them. But we love them because we know that we will lose them or they'll lose us first or whatever it is. And we don't endure any more losses than we were meant to endure. The longer we live, the more losses we'll endure. Especially if we're the only ones who are immortal and we can't take the others with us, and they will. We'll watch them grow old and wither away and die, and we'll still be young. And they might even grow envious that they have to grow old and you're still young. So that could cause a rift in your relationship as well. When, in fact, in quoting Kevin McCarthy in a Twilight Zone episode called Long Live Walter Jameson, it is death that gives this world its point and its meaning. He wanted to die. Jameson, in that episode, wanted to die, and his neighbor and his soon to be father in law wanted immortality. But the old man was 70, and Jameson was like, he appeared right around 51, when in fact, he was 2,000 years old. He was old enough to have personally met Plato, the philosopher Plato. And he told, I think his father in law name is Sam, he told Sam, it is life that gives, it is death that gives life its meaning. We cherish things more, we love them more because we know that they'll die. We love a flower because we know it will die. Who has ever loved a stone, he said. And when I think about those deep words, they made me realize there's a reason why we can't pass 120. We were meant to. We were not meant to live through the Middle Ages and die from bubonic plague at 25 and 25 is old. No, that's wrong. We were meant to have a little bit more time, meaningful amounts of time, copious, meaningful amounts of time. But we were meant to have more than that, though. That's why we can't pass 120. Because in the grand scheme of things, 120 years is very short. It's long for us, but short for eternity. And so, because we know we don't have much time, why time now has meaning, and we hurriedly get things done, and that's why during the 30s of our life, during our summer years between 30 and 60, we are burning with inspiration, burning with desire to create and build and grow and leave our mark and create our legacy. That's why, especially now more than ever, that we are not reaching 120, not commonly. And even those who live past 100, probably more, for the most part, they probably live to be 108 or 110. They're not going to 120, not yet. We will by 2050. Trust me on that one. And that's 2050 is going to be what now? Um, 27 years from now. Yeah. So we have 27 more years to go before my prophecy is fulfilled. 120 in the year 2050. We're going to make it. But the reason why, and so we are twice as much burning with passion to build and leave our legacy behind because we have less time. When in fact our true legacy years are between 90 and 120. That's why we get that burning desire to build in the summer season of our lives. That's why. Because we know we don't have much time and we'll die someday, and we hurriedly scamper to build and to be satisfied with life and live a fulfilling life. So that at the end of it all, we can be satisfied and we can feel purposeful in our existence. We can live our life wasn't a waste. We did accomplish something. We did make a difference. And we can live out the rest of our lives happily, knowing fully well, resting in the reassurance that we did leave behind a lasting legacy. That's why this program here exists, so I can feel the same reassurance that my legacy is secure in the ages of time and space, in the analogs of time and space. This is my niche. What is yours? We were meant to only live a few short years so that we can love and cherish things more and people more, and we can find meaning in creating legacies, lasting legacies, meaningful legacies. And we can do so hurriedly and with more passion, or not really hurriedly in that anxiety laden kind of way, but hurriedly we pace ourselves with, we do this thing called time management, and we pace ourselves and we set our goals and we maybe even write them down too. And we have our plans for life, and when we decide to get married and have kids and start a family and all that. When we build and when we settle down and start a family. When we run around. Last week we talked about love without sex is dry. Sex without love is dry, right? And I said that there are some people who will date different people throughout their prime and settle down in their middle age right around 50 or 60. So we map out our lives, we write down our goals. When do I want to build? And while building, I'm going to date different women. And then when I'm a little bit older now, I settle down and start my family and have kids with my wife. When I want to have kids, what age will I be when I get married? How old will I be when I have kids? So on and so forth. And you know why we do all those things? Because we know our time is short. Because when you're 20 years old, you feel like you're going to live forever. And you take nothing seriously. And by the time you're 35 or 40-ish, you start, or even 32, you start slowing down a little bit more. You start taking life a little bit more seriously. You see, like how you do that when you're 30 or 35 or 40, or really, not even 40. It shouldn't even be 40. 30. Imagine if you knew, yeah, because when you're 20, you feel you're going to live forever, but you see your elders around you living to be 78 or 82 or 85 or all these ages, right? So then, even though you feel you live forever and that it'll take a long time for you to get to those ages, at 20, you know that at 20, you still know that time is still short. So you have a few years to fool around till you're 30, then you're more serious. Imagine if at 20 you knew that you live to be 500. You see what I mean? So time has more meaning because it's short. And with more meaning come more passion. And passion is what gives you a drive to strive. So we have our drive to strive because we know that time is short. And as such, time has value and meaning. And it was meant to be that way. We were only meant to live to be 120. I am not sure if we can get past that, but where I'm at right now, I seriously doubt that we can get past that. And, that's just the way it was meant to be. What we can do is let that passion be our drive to emote us into the motion of building, leaving behind a legacy, and making sure we marry the right person and have kids, good kids who will honor our legacy and carry out the Lord's work here on this earth. Kids for which we can be proud of ourselves because we see a little bit of ourselves through them and what they do. And even if they go off and do their own thing, it's whatever. It doesn't even matter, really. because they have that right to do that. But we can be, and if they do go off and do their own thing, it doesn't affect our satisfaction, our own internal sense of satisfaction with how we lived our lives. And it's not a testament to our character if they go off and do something bad. It doesn't change our sense of satisfaction with how we lived our own lives. That's for them to learn and change and grow. Who am I to say what kind of journey they're meant to have? As long as we give them the best head start we possibly can, while we're still strong and they're still small and dependent on us. That's all that matters. But, and if we are upset that we may not live to see the future, then we may just have to let it go. Just let it go. And you never know, the creator might reveal little hints here and there in our dreams, little glimpses into the future, here and there. But to be satisfied with life is to not be too concerned about the future. We gotta let that shit go and we gotta focus on creating. Our job is not to see the future, but to create the future that we want to exist after we're gone. And that's the purpose of being born when we were born in this time period. That is the purpose of being born in this time period. We were meant to be born here and now. There's no time like the present. You know why we're born now? Because we're meant to create the future. We can be reassured that our legacy is preserved, that we'll go down in history as being one of the very talented people who have to create the future as it is now. That will not be forgotten by time. We might get glimpses into the future by dreaming. We might get glimpses into the future by imagining while we're awake or having visions. But even if we don't get them, we're meant to create the future that we want to see. And we should be rest assured that we'll not be forgotten by time. And that we help to create the future that we would have wanted to live while we were alive. Create that future for somebody else. The purpose of being alive is to leave this world a better place than how we found it when we were born. If we were malcontented at birth, we should be happy at death. There's a saying that goes, when we're born, we are crying, but everybody else around us is laughing and they're glad to see a newborn baby. But when we're dying, we're smiling and content, and everybody around us is crying that we are leaving. And it's true. We cry at birth because we're malcontented, even though we don't know it. But that's how we communicate that we're hungry, that we are tired, that we are whatever it is, upset at birth because we're naturally malcontented. But the way we live our lives will make a difference, or it should. Many people squander their time foolishly at that. We should live to make a difference. That when it's time to go, we are content and we're smiling and content in ourselves and proud in a good way. And our loved ones are crying to see us go. That is a formula of life. Make this world a better place on how you find it. People will still be fucked up regardless. That doesn't change. And we shouldn't try and change people. They have to want to change for themselves. But if we put our blinders on and do our part, then we will make change and we can feel accomplished at the end of the road. We might get some glimpses into the future by imagination or by feeling or by even dreaming. But whether we do or we don't, that doesn't change. It doesn't change the fact that our purpose is to create the future. And who knows if at the time of the end of our lives, that the future that we desired wouldn't have already begun and we would have seen just the we would have been able to catch a glimpse of the beginning, and so therefore we know what happens next. We know what comes next. Who's to say? Sometimes it happens that way, sometimes it doesn't. But who's to say? If we happen to see the paradigm shift begin during our lifetime, then we are blessed and fortunate, and that would make us even more content and more satisfied. Hopefully, we get a more satisfied sense of life if we get to see the paradigm shift that we helped create take place during our lifetimes, and we get to benefit from it a little bit. Imagine what it could turn into. Imagine how much further it could go into the future. That's why your kids exist. Oh yeah, that's why we reproduce and have kids. Why do we have kids? Our kids live through us. I mean, no. Let's rephrase that. We live through them, not in a passionate kind of way, not in an overpowering kind of way either. But if you look at the sons of the father, he the favorite pooper. As we say in Jamaica, favorite pooper. So, and then favorite pooper for him was a little boy, and then still favorite pooper when he was a big man. And the son is supposed to resemble the way the father looked when the father was young. So that's only phenotypically in so far as the looks are concerned. but also their, not only that, but also their mannerisms as well, and their ideas. So, in a sense, we are immortal in the flesh, not consciously, but um, genetically. Why do we have kids? So we could be immortal, not consciously. Our consciousness, in the words of Ecclesiastes 9, verse 5, says, "The living know that they will die, but the dead knows nothing under the sun." So eat all you can, eat and be merry, for the day will come that we will not be able to partake in anything under the sun. Right? The living know that they will die, but the dead knows nothing under the sun. Well, that's because your consciousness leaves this realm and goes to another realm, the afterlife. So, no, your consciousness is not immortal in the flesh. It is immortal in spirit, but not flesh. But you know what is immortal of you in the flesh? You know what lives on forever? Your genes. That's why you should have kids, have children. And even your maternal side of family lives on genetically within you. It just so happens that you don't have their name. You have your father's name. You don't have your mother's surname. Some cultures do, others don't. Most Western cultures do not have their mother's surname. But that doesn't mean that you don't have all of your maternal relatives' genes within you. Your mother's parents and her grandparents and all those people, they're in your genes too. But you don't have their name. You're only that family name. You're only genetically, but not in name. Right? So the mother side is important too, but it just so happens that you have your father's name. But yes, you live on forever throughout your kids, but only genetically, only microbiologically. The reason why they're born with the instinct of being able to know how to survive certain things is because they have you in them already, genetically. And you don't live through those things, and your DNA stores the memories of your traumas and your experiences and pass it down to them so that when they experience something similar throughout their lifetime, they already instinctually know, okay, that's what this is, and they know how to solve it. And you're probably thinking, you never lived through that. How do you know how to solve it? Well, they didn't live through it, but you're the DNA within them, the person who passed on those genes to them, knew lived through it, and as such, the DNA store the memories of what they went through. So they already have the natural instinct for having inherited your DNA. Another means by which one develop instinct is to the subconscious memories of their past life. You don't remember your past life, but your subconscious remembers it. And as such, your subconscious retains the information and the memories. So not only are your instincts developed through the memories of the DNA you inherited from your forefathers, but also your own personal memories from subconscious memories at that from your past life. So you do live forever, and you live forever twice. You're immortal in spirit, and you're microbiologically immortal in the DNA that your children will inherit. And you had a full, rich life full of remarkable accomplishments, and you got to help shape the future, and you will have a page of your own in the history books. So, how's that for life? Don't be mad it's over, be glad it happened. Next week's topic: where, perhaps when, is the wall? Do join me then. I am Mr. Franklin. This has been Frank and Upfront.